original family and fly to farther places. The salty breeze from Santa Monica, Los Angeles, drifted into the kitchen. I knelt by the old gas stove, adjusting the flame. The aroma of baked sweet potatoes with cheese filled the air, but it couldn't drown out the sound of my brother Tyler tossing a potato chip bag onto the coffee table. He was sprawled on the sofa, yelling at an NBA game on his tablet, crumbs falling into the gaps of the carpet I'd just vacuumed that morning. "Lily, get me a cold Coke from the fridge." His voice was laced with impatience, as if summoning a household pet. I had just stood up when my mother, Mary, emerged from the baking room with a plate of freshly baked cookies. Her blonde hair was tucked behind her ears, but her eyes were as sharp as ice. "What are you dawdling for? Didn't you hear your brother? We've raised you for over 10 years, and you still don't have an ounce of awareness. You're such a useless girl." In this Greek-American family, useless girl stung more than any profanity. I clenched the oven mitt in my hand until my knuckles whitened. This phrase had become my personal label ever since my father, Peter, said we should have a son to carry on the family name when I was 10. He was sitting in a wicker chair on the porch, smoking a Cuban cigar. The smoke obscured his face, leaving only a gruff echo, "Go do as he says. Girls need to be hardworking to be desirable. Don't act like those crazy Hollywood girls." The Coke from the fridge was still frosty. I wrapped it in a paper towel and handed it over, but Tyler deliberately jolted his hand as he took it, spilling cold water down my forearm. He slapped the armrest of the sofa and laughed. "Are you clumsy? You can't even hold a drink properly." My mother peeked out from the baking room, and all she did was frown. "Why weren't you watching where you were going? Change your clothes quickly, so you don't catch a cold and waste money on medical bills not covered by insurance." She always forgot Peter had specifically bought Tyler full-coverage health insurance, while I sometimes had to wait for sales to get my vaccines. I returned to the kitchen, hanging my wet t-shirt on the dryer. Amid the hum of the machine, the baked sweet potatoes were finally done. I divided them into 3 containers, the largest one for my father, extra topped with his favorite Spanish chorizo, the medium one for Tyler, garnished with his beloved bacon crumbles, and the smallest one for myself, its edges dotted with burnt cheese. This was an unspoken rule in our home. In my father's eyes, men, even if Tyler only did occasional construction work, deserved the best. As a girl, I should be grateful just to have something to eat. During dinner, my father flicked ash from his cigar. "Tyler's starting a community college football camp next month. We need to prepare the tuition in advance. Mary, transfer some money from the bank account and buy him new gear too." My mother nodded immediately, cutting the largest piece of steak and putting it in Tyler's bowl. "Tyler is our family's hope. If he plays well, he could make it to the NFL. We can't let him be wronged." My brother shot me a triumphant look. I bit into a dry piece of bread, stale whole wheat from the supermarket's clearance rack. My mother said girls should eat this to stay in shape. I was 2 years younger than Tyler and in 8th grade. Last year, I ranked in the top 50 statewide in the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. I asked my father for a new laptop. Mine was his old one, with 3 broken keys. He frowned and took a puff of his cigar. "What's the point of a girl studying so hard? You'll just get married and have kids someday. Use the old one if it works. Don't fight with your brother over resources." In the end, I taped the broken keys with Scotch tape and made do with it for another year. At night, I lay in the small room partitioned off from the garage, unable to sleep as I listened to the baseball game commentary and Tyler's cheers from downstairs. This makeshift space had no air conditioning, sweltering in Los Angeles' summer and drafty in winter. Tyler's south-facing room, however, had its own AC, and a wall-mounted TV Peter had specially installed for him. My mother always said, "Your brother is a boy, he'll support the family someday. He deserves a nice room. You're just a girl, make do. You'll move out eventually anyway." I'd done all the household chores for as long as I could remember. I got up at 6 every morning to clean Tyler's room and the pool, made lunch for the whole family at noon, and ironed my father's work clothes and Tyler's football jersey at night. Tyler, meanwhile, only did occasional construction jobs. The rest of the time, he played video games or surfed with friends at the beach. Once, I was rushing to finish a school science project and asked him to take the dishes out of the dishwasher. He slammed a stack of plates on the floor and ran to my father, crying, "Lily's bullying me. She's making me do maid work." My mother rushed over and slapped me without hesitation. "How can you treat your brother like that? Don't you know how to let him have his way? You'll pay for these plates with your allowance tomorrow." The slap left my ears ringing, and my lips scraped against the counter, oozing blood. I knelt to pick up the shards, tears dripping onto the broken porcelain and spreading into small wet spots. My father stood nearby smoking, the smoke swirling above my head, but he said nothing. From that day on, I never dared ask Tyler to do a single chore again, even when I was so exhausted from balancing homework and making dinner that I fell asleep at my desk. After Tyler enrolled in community college, he grew more rebellious. He skipped classes to play at arcades on Hollywood Boulevard, learned to smoke marijuana, and often missed football practice. Every time the coach called home, my father would hang up and yell at me. "It's all your fault for not keeping an eye on your brother. You just bury your head in books, completely useless." My mother would chime in, fanning the flames. "I think she's jealous that Tyler can play football. She's doing this on purpose." Once, Tyler didn't come home for 3 days straight. My father found him at an internet cafe in the San Fernando Valley, dragged him home, and beat him severely. Tyler cried and screamed. "Why only hit me? She has it so easy at home. I'm exhausted from practice at school, can't I even relax a little?" My mother rushed over to shield him. "Stop hitting him. Tyler knows he was wrong. As for you," she turned to glare at me, "starting tomorrow, you'll pick up your brother from community college after school. Don't let him wander off again." By then, I was in 10th grade, attending school in Pasadena, 40 minutes away from Tyler's community college. Picking him up meant an extra hour of travel each day. One day, a heavy rain hit Los Angeles. I stood outside his school with a tattered umbrella, waiting for 2 hours, but he never showed up. When I finally got home, soaking wet, I found Tyler already eating the lasagna my mother had made. She looked at me in disgust. "What's wrong with you? Can't even pick someone up properly. Were you slacking off in the library on purpose?" I tried to explain that a truck had run a red light and almost hit me in the rain, but my father slammed his knife and fork on his plate. "Shut up. Get to the kitchen and make dinner. Do you want us to starve?" I walked into the kitchen and stared at the cold macaroni left in the pot, my stomach churning. That night, I came down with a high fever, trembling uncontrollably in bed. The window in the garage partition hadn't been closed properly, rain seeped in and soaked my quilt. I wanted to call for my mother, but I had no strength left. I could only grit my teeth and endure. Only my father and Tyler were covered by the family's medical card. My mother said my little cold wasn't worth wasting money on. The next morning, when I was too weak to get up, she finally noticed. But all she did was throw a pack of expired aspirin at me. "Quit faking it. Get up and make breakfast, Tyler has practice." I spent the first 2 years of high school trapped in this suffocating exhaustion. At the end of 11th grade, I ranked first in my school, and got an early interview opportunity with UCLA. Tyler, however, failed 3 basic courses at community college. My father had to ask a friend at a construction company to pull strings to keep him from being expelled. I thought my father might treat me better when I showed him the interview invitation, but he just frowned. "UCLA costs $50,000 a year. Look at our financial situation, maybe you shouldn't go. Get a job as a waitress in Chinatown, and earn money for Tyler's car." I burst into tears, dropping to my knees on the living room carpet. "Dad, I have good grades. I can apply for a full scholarship and work at the school library. We won't need much money from home. I want to study, I really do. My mother sneered, wiping silverware with flour-stained hands. What's the use of studying so much? You'll just marry and become someone else's wife eventually. You'd be better off working to lighten the family's burden. Tyler leaned against the doorframe, playing with the latest iPhone. Yeah, what's the point of a girl studying so hard? Don't hog the family's money. My father had bought him that phone with the money he'd originally set aside for my study materials. Just as I was losing all hope, my counselor, Ms. Davis, suddenly visited our home. She was an African-American woman with thick-rimmed glasses and a firm voice. She spread my GPA report and competition awards across the table, telling my father that UCLA's honors scholarship would cover not only tuition but also housing subsidies, hardly any money needed from home. My father couldn't refuse the California Outstanding Student Family Honor Ms. Davis mentioned, so he reluctantly agreed to let me continue my studies. Before she left, he warned me. Since we're letting you go, don't cause trouble. And you still have to do the housework. Every weekend when you come home, you clean the pool and iron Tyler's football jersey. The last 2 years of high school were harder than I imagined. I lived in a shared dorm with 4 people, waking up before dawn to reserve a seat in the library. After the dorm lights went out, I'd hide under the emergency lights in the hallway to study. To save money, my lunch was always a sandwich, made with discounted bread and expired ham. On weekends, I worked as a nanny for wealthy families in Beverly Hills. But I never felt bitter because I knew studying was my only way out. No matter how bright the stars over Los Angeles were, they couldn't penetrate the darkness of that garage room. When I came home that first weekend, my mother immediately ordered me to clean the pool. California's sun had warmed the water, but the cleaning brush in my hand felt as heavy as lead. Tyler lay on a lounge chair by the pool, playing with my tablet, a used one I'd bought with my first nanny paycheck. He kept ordering me around. There's still moss on the left. Scrub it clean so I don't slip. I ignored him, so he ran to complain to my mother. Mom, Lily's ignoring me. She even glared at me. My mother rushed out, snatching the brush from my hand and throwing it into the pool. You think you're too good now, huh? Daring to ignore your brother. You've picked up bad habits at school. I retrieved the floating brush, holding back tears. I didn't glare at him. I was cleaning the pool. My father emerged from the garage, and at the sight of this, he slapped me hard. You complain about doing a little work. You wouldn't even be in school if it weren't for us. That slap was harder than any before, and blood trickled from the corner of my mouth. I held my cheek, staring at the 3 people closest to me, my heart cold as ice. Tyler's lounge chair still swayed slightly, my mother was polishing her silverware, my father lit another cigar. From that day on, I grew even quieter. Every weekend I came home, I just buried myself in chores, never arguing with them. I knew patience was my only way to wait for the day I could escape. During the summer after 12th grade, a crisis hit our family. My father had saved for years to buy Tyler a used Ford Mustang, to make his football practice easier. But the day before they were supposed to go to the dealership, he discovered that $8,000, hidden behind the fireplace bricks, was gone. The house erupted in chaos. My father was so furious he threw his cigar on the floor. My mother sat on the sofa, wailing and muttering, "Why aren't the Greek gods blessing us?" Tyler hid in his room, terrified to come out. My father kicked the door open, dragged him out, and demanded answers. Suddenly, Tyler pointed at me. "She stole it. It must be her. She has so many school supplies to pay for, she must have run out of money and stolen our savings." I froze, unable to believe my ears. I didn't steal it. I pinch pennies at school and work as a nanny on weekends. Why would I steal from home? My mother jumped to her feet, pointing a finger at my nose. If you didn't steal it, who did? There are only 4 of us here. Tyler wouldn't do it, and your father and I certainly didn't. It's you, you ungrateful wretch. We put you through school, and this is how you repay us. My father roared angrily. If you didn't steal it, where did the money go? If you don't tell the truth today, you'll regret it. I couldn't defend myself, only repeating, I really didn't do it. Believe me. But they refused to listen. My father grabbed a baseball bat from the garage and beat me mercilessly. The bat sliced through the air, landing on my back and arms, making me scream in agony. My mother egged him on. Hit her. Hit her hard. Teach her a lesson for stealing. Tyler stood nearby, a triumphant smile on his face. I stared at the new fake Rolex on his wrist, the one he'd shown off a few days earlier, and suddenly understood. He'd stolen the money to buy luxury goods and gaming equipment, and now he was framing me. I wanted to expose him, but my father's bat came down harder, leaving me breathless. Finally, I blacked out. When I woke up, I was lying on the small bed in the garage partition, covered in bruises that throbbed with every move. My mother brought in a bowl of cold pasta, and tossed it on the small table beside me. Quit pretending to be hurt. Eat up and clean the pool. And let's be clear, this $8,000 is a loan from the family. When you get a job, you'll pay it back double. I looked at the clumpy pasta, feeling nauseous, and turned my head away. My mother kicked the bed frame hard. Don't be ungrateful. From that day on, my heart died completely. I knew that in this Greek-American family, son preference was deeply rooted. I would never get fairness or love. So I pretended to be obedient and hardworking, waking up before dawn and going to bed long after everyone else, keeping the house spotless, the pool always crystal clear, the floors dust-free, Tyler's football jersey always neatly ironed. My father and mother softened their attitude slightly, no longer hitting or yelling at me casually. Tyler let his guard down too, stopping his constant harassment. I poured all my energy into studying, ranking first in every exam, and winning the gold medal at the California Science Olympiad, along with a scholarship. I secretly deposited the scholarship into my own bank account, one I'd opened under a fake ID, hidden from my parents. This money would be my ticket to freedom. When my father and mother saw the scholarship, they smiled with satisfaction. They told everyone, our daughter might be a girl, but she's good for something, she brings home scholarships to help the family. In 12th grade, the pressure of college applications grew intense. I slept only 4 hours a night, spending the rest of my time studying and preparing application materials. When exhaustion overwhelmed me, I'd nap for a few minutes at my desk in the library before pushing on. I knew the SAT and college acceptance letter were my only chances. I had to get into a university far from Los Angeles, preferably on the East Coast, and never return to this suffocating home. The day I finished the SAT, I walked out of the downtown test center and let out a long sigh of relief. The setting sun painted the Hollywood Hills gold, and I knew my life was about to begin anew. When I got home, my father and mother didn't ask how I'd done. Instead, they said, "When will you start working at the Chinatown restaurant? The Greek neighbor's daughter is a waitress there and makes $3,000 a month." I replied calmly, "We'll talk when the college acceptance letters arrive." The day the acceptance letter arrived, I cried tears of joy. I'd been accepted into Harvard University, with a full scholarship. I held the gilded letter and walked to my father. He glanced at it and frowned. "Boston is across the entire country. You shouldn't go. Study at UCLA instead and get a job in Los Angeles to take care of the family." My mother agreed. "That's right. Girls should stay close to home. When you get married, you can still visit often." I'd expected their reaction. I pulled the scholarship certificate from my pocket. "Dad, Mom, Harvard is giving me a full scholarship, covering tuition, housing, and meals. I won't need a cent from home. I also applied for a work-study position at the school, so I can pay for my own living expenses." My father and mother stared in shock. They'd never imagined I could get into such a prestigious university, let alone win a full scholarship. In their minds, it was enough for a girl to finish high school. Tyler stood nearby, his face twisted with jealousy. So what? Getting into college isn't that big a deal. You'll just get married anyway. I ignored him and looked at my parents. I've made up my mind. I'm going to Boston. My father was silent for a long time before nodding. Since it won't cost us money, go ahead. But remember, you're a member of the Peters family. When you're successful, don't forget us. Send money home often. I didn't reply. I turned and went back to the garage room to pack. I had few belongings, just a few old t-shirts, jeans, and a box of books. I tucked the scholarship money and my nanny earnings into a backpack I kept close to my body. This was all my hope. Tyler peeked in, trying to see if I was taking anything valuable. I gave him a cold glare, and he slunk away. The day before I left for college, my mother made moussaka, a traditional Greek dish of eggplant and meat. Take care of yourself at school, and don't get into fights. Call home every month to let us know you're okay. It was the first time she'd ever said something that sounded like concern, but I felt no warmth, only relief. I knew her care was just fear that I wouldn't send money home later. My father drove me to Los Angeles International Airport. We didn't speak the entire way. Before I went through security, he pulled $500 from his wallet and stuffed it into my hand. Take this for food on the way. Study hard at school and don't get into trouble. I took the money and said, "Thank you, Dad," before turning and walking through the security gate without looking back. I knew this turn meant a complete break from my past. As the plane took off, I watched Los Angeles shrink below me, and tears finally streamed down my face. These weren't tears of sorrow but of joy and excitement. I'd finally escaped the painful prison of my original family and gained my freedom. The Pacific Ocean glistened beneath the wings, as if guiding me toward a new path. The plane flew east, crossing the Rocky Mountains toward bustling Boston. I leaned against the window, watching the landscape change below, my heart filled with hope for the future. I knew the road ahead would be long, with many challenges, an unfamiliar environment, heavy coursework, racial differences, but I wasn't afraid. For the first time, I could be myself and live for no one but me. At Harvard, I was like a butterfly breaking free from its cocoon, savoring the sweet air of freedom. I joined the school debate club and volunteer programs, studied diligently, and made many like-minded friends. I was no longer the quiet, submissive girl. I became outgoing, confident, and strong. At a multicultural sharing session, I mustered the courage to tell my story. The applause from the audience made me realize I was never alone. I rarely called home. Every time I did, my mother only asked for money or complained about Tyler. After high school, Tyler hadn't gotten into college and wandered the streets of Los Angeles, getting into constant trouble, first arrested for drunk driving, then having to pay compensation for a fight. My father asked me to find Tyler a job in Boston, but I refused. Everyone is responsible for their own life. He has to walk his own path. Once, my mother called me, sobbing. She said Tyler owed money to a gang, and they were threatening to come after him. She begged me to send money immediately. I was silent for a long time before saying, "I don't have any money. All my money goes to tuition and living expenses." My mother screamed at me, calling me heartless, accusing me of forgetting Greek family traditions and the sacrifices my parents had made. I hung up the phone without guilt. I knew I couldn't let them drag me down anymore. I had to live my own life. With the scholarship and my work-study earnings, I graduated from college in 4 years. After graduation, I got a good job as a paralegal in Boston and rented a small apartment with a view of the Charles River. I blocked my parents' and Tyler's contact information, cutting off all ties with them. Sometimes, when I saw news about Los Angeles on social media, I'd think of that small garage room, but my heart remained calm. One evening, I stood on my apartment balcony, gazing at Boston's twinkling skyline, my heart at peace. I thought of the dark years in that garage room, the pain of my father's beatings, the injustice of Tyler's false accusations. Those painful memories were like scars etched into my heart, but they had also made me stronger. I knew I would never forget the hurt my original family had caused, but I wouldn't let that pain define my future. I would work hard, live well, and build my own happiness. I believed that with perseverance, I could become whoever I wanted to be, like a butterfly breaking free from its cocoon, soaring freely in the sun. The evening breeze off the Charles River brushed my cheeks, carrying the scent of freedom, a warmth I'd never felt in Los Angeles.